Hey guys, it's Alexandra from Cre8tioncrochet.com and yarncraftsandcoffee.com. Today we're going to be working on a really easy granny stitch headband that is worked in a rectangle, and then I've added a Mobius twist here to mine, which just adds a really cute detail on the front. You can also wear this part on the back if you don't like having the extra fabric at the base of your neck. It can sometimes roll up and seem a little bit bulky. So this Mobius twist can be worn at the back and you don't have that extra fabric there. If you don't want to add the Mobius twist, you can follow the same exact written instructions and then at the end just fold it in half on itself and sew it up like a tube. Don't add the twist in there and the pattern works exactly the same. So the pink one over here on the right is my lightweight version. That's a number 3 weight yarn. This is Berroco Modern Cotton DK. On the left, this is my worsted weight version. That's a number 4 weight yarn. This is Berroco Modern Cotton. And I really like using Berroco Modern Cotton in both of these weights for different projects, especially for warm weather projects and especially for living down here in Florida, which is pretty much warm all year long. This yarn feels really great against the skin. It wears well. It machine washes and dries really well. It's a beautiful yarn. And it comes in tons of colors. It's a really great yarn. I do sell this yarn in my Yarn Crafts and Coffee shop, both online and in person. Our shop is located inside America's Antique Mall in Melbourne, Florida. Now you don't have to work with a cotton blend if you don't want to. You can switch this up and work with a 100% acrylic. You can go with a wool blend, whichever yarn you like best. I'll pop some other recommendations down in the description box for you as well. Today's tutorial is all about this lightweight number 3 weight version. Together with this number 3 weight yarn, you're going to want to have a G6 4.25mm crochet hook. Gauge is not terribly essential for this project, though you will still need to have a soft tape measure handy so that you can measure to make sure that the finished rectangle is the correct size to fit your head. You're going to find instructions here for toddler, child, and adult sizes. They are sized 2 inches to 2.5 inches smaller than the head circumference. So if you're not sure which size to make, the best thing is to measure your head right above your eyebrows all the way around. That is your head circumference, and then you would take 2 to 2.5 inches from that. And that is regardless of your fiber choice. After you work about 6 rows up, you'll lay this flat, measure from the edge of the left side directly across the center to the edge of the right side, and you're going to be able to see the height of the finished headband. If you'd like it to be a thinner band, you can subtract chains and stitches. If you'd like it to be a thicker band, you can add chains and stitches. I am going to be talking about the stitch multiple when we get into the chain in just a moment. I am also going to be providing different heights. When I'm making an earwarmer, I'm usually shooting for 3.5 to 4 inches so that it is cozy and covers my ears. But with a headband, it's a little bit more flexible, especially when you get into how you're going to be using it. So these two are on the thicker side. The one on the right is 3 inches wide and the one on the left is 3 3/8 inches wide. So I think this is as wide as I would go for a headband. And this is going to work the best when you have your hair up and then you just use this as an accent to your outfit. The thinner you go, the better it's going to be if you want it to functionally hold your hair back. I found that when I put these on and tried to have my hair down, it just folded up and rolled in on itself. So I will have different heights available for you and you can follow the chain instructions for each of those heights. Where gauge really comes into play is going to be after you have all your rows done, you'll lay your flat rectangle out, measure from the bottom edge all the way up to the top edge, and make sure that that measurement is 2 to 2.5 inches smaller than your head circumference. If it is too big or too small, then that means that the finished headband is not going to fit correctly. So when we get there, I will provide lengths for you, and you'll just want to make sure you measure the full length of your finished rectangle. I don't really enjoy hand sewing that much, so I'm going to be showing you how to do a technique called pull loop through. Creates this really cute little ridge detail down here at the bottom. We are going to start with a row of single crochet for added stability here at the join. So that last row there is worked at the same time as we join to the first row. That is the joining method I'm going to show you. If you prefer working a different method like a whip stitch, then you would work the full length up and then use your preferred method to go ahead and seam it up. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with a slip knot, so I pulled the yarn over my fingers here. I'll wrap it around my index finger 2 times, holding tension with my thumb and my middle finger. Pull the loop on the left up, over the other one, but not off my finger. Then I'll pull the one on the left now, up, over the other one, and off my finger. Grab my crochet hook, insert it into the loop on my finger, and pull it off. Hold the working yarn in my right hand. Short tail in my left, I'll pull that so this knot will go to normal tension. Now, normally I try to keep the pattern as seamless as possible, but I found that when I was ready to seam up the beginning and the end together, it was pulling from the chain because the first row was only worked into one loop from the chain. To add stability and security to the join, I'm going to start with a row of single crochet. So we're going to start first with a chain. To chain, we yarn over and pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. Each time we do that, we get one of these V shapes here. We don't count the loop that's on our hook. We have 1, 2, 3 chains so far. I'll put up a chart now that shows how many chains you're going to want to have, depending on the size that you're working. My sample here has 13 chains. We're going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook. Again, we don't count the loop that's on our hook. There's the first chain underneath it and the second chain underneath that. Insert your hook right into the center of that chain, yarn over and pull through. There are 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. Insert your hook into the center of the next chain, yarn over and pull through. 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. Insert your hook into the center of the next chain, yarn over and pull through. 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. Each time we do this, we get one of these V shapes here at the top. That's what we're going to use to count our single crochets. So we have 1, 2, 3 single crochets so far. We're going to continue single crocheting into each chain all the way across the row. And at the end of the row, you're going to find that you have just 1 single crochet less than the total number of chains that you started with. I've completed all the stitches from row 1. And again, I went with a row of single crochet here so that when you're joining the 2 ends, it has something a little bit more substantial to hold on to, since the seam is going to be pulled as the ear warmer will stretch when you go to put it on. Now we're going to start the granny stitch pattern. We're going to start with a chain 2 and turn. And this chain 2 is going to count as one of our double crochets from our granny stitch cluster. We're going to work 2 double crochets into that very first stitch that our chain is attached to. Yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch, picking up both loops from the V shape. Yarn over and pull through. There are 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert your hook into the same exact stitch. Yarn over and pull through. 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. These 2 double crochets that we just finished, together with our beginning chain, 3 stitches are going to count as our first granny stitch cluster. Now we're going to skip each of the next 2 stitches, and in that next stitch we're going to work 3 double crochets. Yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch, yarn over and pull through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And just like that, we have our second granny stitch cluster complete. Now we're going to continue working these all the way across, skip each of the next 2 stitches, and in that next stitch, 3 double crochets. skip each of the next 2 stitches, 3 double crochets in the next stitch. All the way down to the end, once you get to the last 3 stitches, you'll have just finished a granny stitch cluster. We'll skip 2 stitches and we'll work a double crochet into that last stitch. So go ahead and work all the way across until you work this last granny stitch cluster and you have 3 stitches left. Once we've come to the last 3 stitches, we're going to skip 2 stitches, and in the very last one, just work 1 double crochet. And now row 2 is complete. The shaping will be off a little bit here until you have more fabric, and then it will even itself out. For row 3, start with a chain 2 and turn, and that chain 2 counts as our first double crochet. Now we have this space underneath us, and that's where we're going to work our first 2 double crochets. Yarn over, insert your hook into the space this time, not into the stitch, but into the space underneath it, picking up the stitches on your hook, and then complete your double crochet. Yarn over, insert your hook back into that same space, and complete the double crochet. Then we're going to skip each of the next 3 double crochets, which are from our next granny stitch cluster, and in the space after that, we're going to work our next 3 double crochets. Inserting right into the center of the space, picking up the stitches on our hook. 3 double crochets in here will complete our next granny stitch cluster. And this is how we're going to continue working all the way down the row. Skip each of the stitches from the granny stitch cluster, work 3 double crochets into the space that's after it. Continue working this pattern all the way across to the very last space. After we finish working into each space all the way across, we're going to come to the last 3 stitches. We'll skip each of the next 2 stitches, and in the top chain of that next stitch, that's where we're going to work 1 double crochet. So here in this stitch, you have the first chain on the bottom. The second chain is right at the top, level with the other stitches where you would normally insert your hook. Insert right into the center of the chain and complete a double crochet. And now row 3 is complete, and we're going to work all the remaining rows the same exact way as row 3. So you'll start with a chain 2, you'll turn, work 2 double crochets into this very first space, then begin working 3 double crochets into each space all the way across. Once you reach the last cluster, you'll skip those 2 double crochets there, and in the top chain of that chain 2, that's where you're going to work your last double crochet right into the center of that chain. As you're working, if you notice that either side is really tight and it's restricting the fabric instead of being more flexible, then most likely it means that the chain 2 from the beginning is too tight. So either try working that chain 2 looser, or continue working with the same tension but do a chain 3 instead. I've just completed my 5th row of the granny stitch pattern. The row at the bottom where we started the single crochets, that's row 1. And each one of these clusters here is a new row. So we have row 1 down there, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, and row 6. To check the height or the width, you're going to want to work at least 8 rows up. The bottom will most likely flare out a little bit, and the top will most likely be a little bit tighter. So you're going to want to take gauge closer to the top, but in the middle. And that's going to give you the height of the headband, measuring from the edge of the left side all the way across to the edge of the right side. After working the 8 rows and taking the measurement, if you want to adjust it, then I would recommend doing it at that time. And again, if you decide to adjust the beginning chain count, if you're starting with 1 row of single crochet, then the chain multiple is going to be a multiple of 3 plus 2. I'm going to be showing you how to join using a method called pull loop through. I do not enjoy hand sewing that much, so I'm going to use this method so that I can work the last row and join it to the first row at the same time, and then I only have to weave in my ends. So in the chart that I'm going to put up, you're going to see with pull loop through and with other join. So other join is going to be something like a whip stitch or a mattress stitch. And in that case, you're going to work up all your rows, and then you're going to fasten off with a longer tail, and you're going to seam it together. For the pull loop through join, you're going to finish with 1 row shorter than you need so that you can work the last row and join together. So let's go to the beginning. Laying this out with the beginning tail end over here on the left. Row 1 of the single crochet is worked from the right side or the front side of the fabric, and then row 2 we're looking at the back side of the fabric or the wrong side. The stitches are a little bit less defined as opposed to the row above it where the stitches are more defined and a little bit prettier. So if your tail end is currently coming out over here on the left, then that means that your single crochets were worked from right to left here, and that's the right side. And row 2 of the granny stitch pattern, we're looking at the back, which is the wrong side. And the row above it, which is prettier and more defined, has the cluster over here on the right, as opposed to the wrong side, which has the cluster over here on the left. And the single double crochets are on opposite sides. That one above it right there, that's the right side of the fabric. So if you want to finish like a simple tube, you're going to want to finish on a right side if you're going to use the other join method, or on the wrong side if you're going to use the pull loop through method. If you'd like to add a Mobius twist, which is a little twist in here before we fold it in half on itself, then your sides come together like this, and they're going to be the opposite because of that twist. If you're doing the other join where you're going to whip stitch or mattress stitch, you're going to finish on a wrong side. If you're going to be using the pull loop through method, you're going to finish on a right side. So I'm going to include this information with the charts, but if you adjust the length at all, that's how you're going to match up your pattern. I'll go ahead and put up a chart now that shows how many rows you're going to want to have depending on the size that you're working. After you have all your rows complete, before seaming up, you're going to want to make sure that you lay this flat, your entire rectangle flat. Measure from the edge of the left side all the way across to the edge of the right side. So that it fits on my camera better, I do have it folded, but you'll actually have your whole entire rectangle laid out. Make sure that it falls in the ranges that I've provided. If it's currently measuring smaller than this, or if it's currently measuring larger than this, then the finished headband may not fit correctly. This is where gauge is essential. The height is a little bit more flexible, but you have to measure the length here to ensure that it's going to fit your head correctly. To add a Mobius twist, you're going to fold your rectangle in half on itself. Then you're going to take that top layer and you're going to flip it. Just the top layer. You're going to see that twist in the fabric. Now you're going to join these two sides together, either using your preferred join method here, or if you want to do the pull loop through join with me, then we're going to add that last row in together. If you're doing the pull loop through join, then your row is going to look exactly the same as the one on the right. If you're working another join method like the whip stitch, then your last row has a double crochet on the top, which is opposite of the 3 double crochet clusters from this right side. If you're doing the pull loop through join with me, then right now you have 3 double crochet clusters on the top on the left side as well as on the right, so that the next row we work to join these two will have that opposite pattern in there. So now we're going to work the last row and join together. We're going to start with a chain 2 and turn. Now I'm going to go ahead and set up my rectangle, so I'm folding it in on itself like a tube, and since I'm adding a Mobius twist, I'm going to go ahead and take that back piece and just flip it over. If you were going to continue as a tube, you could just leave it the way that it was. We're going to match up our stitches as we're working across, working into the corresponding stitch. Here we've just finished our chain 2. I'm going to pull up on this loop so that I don't lose it, and I like to hold on to the stitch in between my fingers and then remove my crochet hook. I'm going to insert from the back to the inside through the very first stitch here on the right from that row. So we're actually working into the foundation chain as opposed to the single crochets. So it does look a little bit different, but you still will see your first stitch very easily there. So from the outside layer, which is on the back, inside, lost my loop here, but I'm going to place that loop onto my hook, pull it down to normal tension, and then pull it through. We'll work our first double crochet as normal into that space on our current side. Pull up on the loop, hold on to the fabric in between my fingers and pull it off. Insert from the outside in through the next stitch on row 1. And then I'll put the loop back on my hook, pull it down to normal tension, and pull it through. Work the second double crochet as normal into the space. Pull up on the loop, hold on to it and pull it off. From the outside layer, going into the very next stitch, I'll insert from the outside in. Put that loop back on my hook, pull it down to normal tension, and then pull it through. So we've just worked our third stitch, and we've inserted into the third stitch as well. Both sides correspond with each other. I'll pull up a loop here really quick, and you can see that our two sides have been joined together here. We're going to continue working like this all the way across. Skip the next cluster as normal, work the first double crochet into the next space. Pull up on the loop and remove your hook. Go to the outside layer of row 1, move over to the next stitch, insert from this outside layer in, pick up the loop on your hook, pull it down and pull it through. Alright, so as we're joining and I'm talking about that outside layer, it's just the way that your fabric is laying as you're joining it. The outside layer is this part of row 1, and when we have it folded in half as we're working, it's actually on the back side. As you work this final row of granny stitch here, you are going to be skipping your clusters as normal and working into the spaces. But when you're joining to row 1, you will not miss joining to any stitches. You will continue joining into each stitch all the way across on row 1, and you'll find that at the end it will match up with your last double crochet. And that's what's going to provide us this solid seam here between the two sides. Here at the end, I've reached the last cluster. I'll work into the top chain as normal, just 1 double crochet. And then join to the very last stitch there that's connected to my beginning tail. If the hole opens up too much, you can just tug on the tail and it'll close it back up. But that's our last stitch of the row. Now I'm going to go ahead and fasten off with a tail end long enough I can comfortably weave in. Pull up on this last loop to break it. Now I'm going to grab my tapestry needle and weave in my ends. I'm going to thread that last tail end into my needle. I like this textured side here to be facing up, but if you'd like this to be the back side instead and you want the other side to be facing, just go ahead and pick which side you want to be facing and bring your ends to the other side of that. This is the side I want to be facing, so my tail ends have to go to the back for weaving. I'm going to tighten up this last stitch, then I'm going to bring it around the front here, inserting into the side edge of the top stitch of this last stitch that I worked on the left, picking up both loops from that stitch on the side edge and then push through to the back. Give it a tug. You don't want it to be too tight here across the front. I'll just give it a little bit of a tug and then I'll bring it to the back. Now if you don't like it just showing one strand, you can bring it back through that first stitch here, pull it through, and it will complete a stitch that looks like a V shape. And then just bring your tail end back to the back, but I'm just going to leave it with that one tail there. Flip to the back. Now I'm going to bring my yarn up here through a couple stitches on the right, so then I can work diagonally down into the bulkiness of those stitches. As I enter and exit, I'm not going to be picking up the whole entire stitch on my needle. I'm going to insert my needle into the center of it to break it in half, and that's going to help capture my yarn better. So I'm going to insert into a nearby stitch here, breaking it in half. I'm going to run diagonally over to the left underneath several stitches there, breaking that last stitch in half when I exit. Hold onto the fabric in between my fingers and pull it through. This will help prevent some of the bunching. Give it a tug and then come back and use my fingers to manipulate the fabric if I need to, if it has bunched up. Rotate, insert into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half, run back up through several of those same stitches I just finished working through, and break my last stitch in half when I exit. Hold onto the fabric in between my fingers, pull it through, give it a tug, come back and manipulate the fabric if I need to. I like to do 3 passes, that's my magic number. If you feel comfortable after 2, you can fasten off. If you feel like you need a 4th one, you can do that too. Into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half, through several of those same stitches. Breaking my last stitch in half when I exit, hold on in between my fingers, pull it through, give it a tug, manipulate the fabric if I need to, and then I'll fasten off. I'll go ahead and weave in the initial tail end in a very similar manner, following the same steps. I'm going to hold on to the knot here and pull it so that it's tight. I'm going to come from the back here into the stitch that's just to the right, right in the center of that stitch, picking up both loops of that V shape, breaking that stitch in half. From the back to the front, and then over to the left underneath that loop I created with the other tail end. From the front to the back. Then I'll flip it over and weave it in into the bulkiness of the single crochets here on the right. Then I'll just shape this a little bit so that I get my twist in the center. And it's ready to wear out, and I'm so excited. I've already tried it on before I even fastened it off, and it's so cute. Guys, thanks so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to smash that like button to let YouTube know that you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel while you're there. Pop down into the description box below for the link to the written pattern, as well as the link to other ear warmer tutorials. Drop me a comment below and let me know, are you working yours as a simple tube, or are you going to add in a Mobius twist? I'll catch you guys next time.